Hello and welcome to another episode of Goa Wants to Know. This election will be one of the most difficult to call because of the many candidates who have crossed political parties, leaving the voters thoroughly confused. But the one common thread which runs through this election will be that many parties have fielded candidates with criminal background. To discuss this and other issues, I have with me a very distinguished guest, Mr. Gaurav Bakshi, who is an actor and the founder of helpdesk.com. Mr. Bakshi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
So as I was saying, this would be a very difficult election to call because one, the candidates have changed sides. How do the voters make a choice? Because I think they will have to settle with making or choosing the lesser evil. Just broad comments on what is your take?
I think firstly it's appropriate to say this, and that is the perception, and the perception is because of the normalization of criminalization in politics. And because of that, every voter, every citizen assumes we don't have a choice. It is one worse than the other. But I think in this election in particular, we do have a choice, and the statement may not actually hold true that we don't have one. If you look carefully at the candidates that we have, there is enough number of individuals with a clean record, with capability, integrity and honesty. There is a significant number with a criminal background. This clear distinction between the two needs to be made, and I think every voter needs to be made aware of this. If you and I are aware of who the criminal is or the criminal background individual is, we will make a more informed decision. So I think it's up to us, and that's why we have started this change.org petition, which has been gaining momentum. It's for to clean up Goa polls, and that's the name we've given it. So the intention is to have the Election Commission request them to direct the word criminal record should be plastered across all marketing material, campaign material, and posters of all the candidates and the parties. So therefore, you and I are aware fully, and a better informed decision can be made.
So basically, you have made an appeal to the people to elect candidates without a criminal background, and you have put out this petition on social media platform. And my question is, what has been the response to this appeal?
So I think the response has been really nice. From about the first 2 to 3 days, we had about 1,000 individuals, people signed the petition. And thereafter, it has ramped up dramatically. It's gone to 10,000 plus in just over a week. I think there's a unified, clear response by all signatories, and this can be seen through various hundreds of comments that have been coming, where everybody speaking in one single voice, they do not want criminals. It's very clear. So this, I think, is significant. I'd like to read out a couple of comments that have been coming in. So we've got a Cheryl Ribeiro who's written, I don't want criminals running the state. We have Bharat Ram from Rees Magos who's written, it's about time the criminals were in jail and law-abiding citizens were able to contest freely without this bunch. Many more people will join politics if we eliminate the criminals from any public role. That is what we desperately need. Then watch how our country and our people prosper. And finally, Alex Noronha says, let's start with Goa. We need pan-India cleanup of all politicians across all elections. Their criminal information has to be public. Even if a smallest crime is reported on any politician, his name should be suspended for contesting for 2 terms. We need clean people to lead our country. True. So I think it's great to hear such feedback and suggestions coming in. Not only that, I think we've had a lot of influencers as well as the media support the campaign as well. So it's been a wonderful response.
Now, it would be a no-brainer to ask you why we should not select candidates with criminal background. But really, what are the consequences if people just ventured into this dangerous area?
I think, as the saying goes, a leopard does not change his color. Unfortunately, and while there, with all due respect to human beings, people can reform. And if they do, it's absolutely wonderful and beautiful. But by and large, given the repeat criminal history of various candidates, if it is a candidate who's charged with rape, with confinement of a minor, over a period of time of having destroyed a police station, attacked a police station, we're not going to expect this person who then gets elected to do something beautiful and create a loving, happy atmosphere.
Yeah.
Believe me, no citizen would want such a candidate to even enter their home. So if we elect such a candidate, our sisters and mothers and daughters will not feel safe.
Yeah.
If we elect a corrupt, what will they think of doing when they get elected? They will ensure that our wealth is taken away from us and it benefits them. So you and I have to make a very clear choice.
Now, in your petition, you have highlighted what has been put out by the media and by the ADR. And more specifically, you have pointed out that 11 out of the 40 present MLAs have had criminal background, which adds up to about 27% of the candidates.
Yes, so 11 of the 40 have a criminal background, and out of these 11, 9 have very serious charges against them, including some that we had mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely disappointing in today's world. This is what is the product of our society, and this is the leadership that is out there, so-called leadership, leading us. And as ADR has pointed out and provided wonderful data, that I believe the number of candidates with criminal backgrounds has doubled from 2007 to 2017.
Okay.
That shows the graph. Are we moving towards a criminal society? And when I say that, if the leadership is with a criminal background, it seeps down, we will see an increase of crime naturally. If a criminal gets elected, he will ensure crime flourishes. He will not think of reducing crime, he will think of increasing crime. And that's unfortunately what's happening.
Now, as you mentioned, the 9 MLAs have very serious cases against them. And unfortunately, these are scattered around all major political parties. What does it say about the political parties?
I think it clearly states that the well-being of our nation, of society, of citizens is not the primary focus of majority of the political parties. They're clearly thinking of their immediate short-term benefit by utilizing muscle power, money power, of such individuals for the purpose of gaining power. Again, short-term game with long-term disastrous consequences.
Yeah.
A society will literally crumble. Are we moving towards a state of, let's say, Colombia? And this is not exaggerated. Pablo Escobar seeped through every layer of governance in Colombia to the point where he became so arrogant and blatant, he actually broke through the treasury. He has attacked and destroyed an airplane. He has killed several politicians in the country until as life karma came around and finally he was shot dead. So we are in many ways heading in these directions. I think we need to be extremely cautious, realize it's your children and my children who will face the consequences of such individuals coming to power.
Now, coming to these candidates again, they have developed deep roots and they exercise tremendous muscle and money power. They have vote banks, they have money to dish out. So in these circumstances, when they are well entrenched, what are the choices of the voters? How do they overcome all these things that are gifted to them?
I think, and just to add another point to the previous question that you asked, we must understand the nature of allegations or criminal charges against these candidates.
Yeah.
Let's just list some of them. There's rape of a minor, confinement of a minor, corruption, murder charges, attacking a police station, as I stated earlier. These are grievous, serious charges.
Yeah.
Please, let's all understand this.
Yeah.
These are not simple, somebody screamed at somebody and therefore we want to elect him. It's not a small thing. These are very significant things. Now, coming to your question about freebies or that are being offered, I think there's a clear distinction. We need to understand something. Politicians are not giving you the world that's transforming your life. They're handing over very small amounts as cash for vote. These are extremely small sums which will again make you feel happy for a day or two or a month or 3 months, and you'll feel wonderful that he's been the Robin Hood to you. But please realize what's happening. It is by accepting this, we are subjugating ourselves and becoming slave to such an individual. We will not have opportunities of growth. This person will not care to help us grow. He will ensure that the poor will remain poor. You are dependent on him for the freebies.
Yeah.
So let's realize the short-term gain is causing us to lose out every opportunity that you and I and our children will have for flourishing, for growth, for experiencing life to the fullest, for traveling, for doing things we truly love, we will be confined and limited to these individuals.
Now, just to add to that, I understand that these freebies are not temporary, as you mentioned, with regard to, giving some cash or giving some gift. I have also come across, one plumber which was staying in Karanzale. He told me that, the politician has sponsored the construction of his entire house. So, more than just giving freebies where you can say, okay, now the time period for this is over, now it's time to give some more freebies. It is not that kind of a thing. Now, when you build a house for your voter, the voter is indebted to the MLA for life.
So, my understanding is, and having interacted with hundreds of voters across various levels, including the individuals who are getting the freebies and accepting them, I believe it's a very small number that's getting that significant freebies from the politicians. Yeah. By and large, they're not. Yeah. For example, in certain constituencies around, I won't name it, but around Panjim, there's a very clear understanding that people line up once a week in front of the MLA's office and they expect to be given free money for education for the children. They're given promises of a free house in future. This promise of a free house in future has been happening for the last 15 years. They have not yet received it. So let's realize what the manipulation that's happening. I think finally, if I was to conclude this, ultimately it is short-term gain and forfeiting our own future is the consequence.
So you also mentioned that you are the founder of helpdesk.in. It'd be very interesting for our viewers to know what exactly does your organization do?
So this is an interesting story. It comes from my background of having participated and being seen as one of the founding members of the Anna Hazare movement, the India Against Corruption movement. Yeah. That took place in 2010 and in 2011 and was seen globally with some massive impact. But post that, I think there's a deep down burning to contribute in some way towards nation building or providing something that eases life in whatever way I could. Wonderful. And about 2 years back, we set up this entity and we're offering, believe it or not, corruption-free services with government departments, and we've actually successfully done it. We've not paid a single rupee in bribe across all layers. Now, as we've gone through this journey of providing these services and providing productized services which citizens can benefit from and businesses can benefit from, we have in this process mapped out and understood every minute detail and layer of every government department. We know exactly how corruption is working in those departments. Okay. We know which minister or department head has an unofficial PA collecting money. We also know which officials are in your face directly asking for money. So from politician to peon, we have a pretty good understanding, and with all due respect, the intention is not to go against anybody, but it is to lovingly and politely request them to not continue such things and provide citizen-friendly services, and definitely allow us to do our job of providing the same to citizens.
Now, coming back to these candidates that are fielded, they offer freebies pre-election, and subsequently, suppose they are elected to power, you will find out that they are dishing out jobs for money, or they are also brokers of government welfare schemes. So this is also a form of corruption which persists throughout the 5-year term.
Yes, absolutely. I think the media has been all over about one particular minister giving jobs to everyone in his own constituency and denying all the other Goans from the other constituencies the right to access those jobs. There is another minister who has been selling jobs, that's the allegation, made by a second minister in the same party. So these are horrific, strange things that are happening. Even these examples, let's look at this very carefully. When a minister gives all jobs to somebody in his constituency, obviously the criteria is the person in a particular geographical location. The criteria is not capability. It's not the background of that individual. So therefore, there is no level playing field left in society for you and I. If we have the right skill, we will not be able to get this job. It leads to destroying the very fabric of society. Number one, because equal opportunity has gone away, it is no longer a democracy. It is dictatorship of that one MLA or minister in his own constituency. choosing and deciding where he has no business to do all this, by the way. It is none of his business to be giving jobs to anybody, but they're violating the law, abusing the law to do so. So at one level, we have jobs being given to the youth and individuals who are not even capable. So they will struggle. And therefore, the citizen services will suffer. So it causes all of these issues to arise. Secondly, there is unequal access to jobs, because some people are getting it thanks to the dictatorship and decision making of this one individual who has, by the way, absolutely no right to be giving out jobs. It's not his job. It's not his role to do so. It's supposed to be as per certain exams that are supposed to be held in a particular department, and depending on qualifications and how they do in the test, they're supposed to get the job.
Yeah.
So are we creating a destructive environment in society? Are we creating a society where you and I cannot equally access our own fundamental rights? Where will this lead us? I think the very fabric of society is endangered thanks to such actions. So again, short-term gain for a job of 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. But if my experience of having interacted with government officials and at all levels across Goa, there is a deep frustration in government. The government officials, many of them are very sincere, and they openly talk about this. Yeah. There is deep frustration in terms of lack of resources being provided, lack of educational opportunities, lack of growth for them, lack of support from the politicians, because again, it's extracted and maneuvered and manipulated to only fill certain pockets and is not even intending to create better services. And that's the consequence.
Now, you'll see that both these type of candidates, that those who have criminal background and those who have corruption cases against them, these people, they also do not have party loyalty. It's not that parties are fielding them because they are loyal to us. Once they are elected, if their party happens to be on the wrong side of the majority, they have no qualms in crossing over and being in power, being with the party which forms the government.
I think parties, it's time that they realize citizens are not fools. We are seeing exactly what's happening. A very clear distinction and a strong step of no tolerance should be taken by every single political party, and figure out a way to do so. If it means thrashing it out in Parliament or the Assembly and coming to some sort of an agreement of keeping out such people, please, it's a request and an appeal from all of us citizens. We want a clean society. We want to live happily with honest people around and give our best in life for our nation and for ourselves. Please allow it.
So in this case, for example, there is no policeman as such for the political parties, except for the Election Commission, which has made strong recommendations that candidates with criminal background, their history should be put up on the website. They should, and you have made an appeal that all those cases should be put out in social media or wherever they are, canvassing for the election. Now, do you think that political parties themselves will impose this kind of a censorship on them, that is keeping people out with criminal cases, keeping people out with corruption cases against them?
I think there's a conflict of interest in political parties, which they themselves admitted in media, that there is interest, self-interest, political interest, therefore they are allowing such individuals to join their parties. So no, we cannot depend on the parties to do so. In fact, that is why one of the reasons we've started this campaign is to add to the Supreme Court directions to EC, to the Election Commission, to ensure that there's publication of criminal records in newspapers and so on. We are simply adding on to that a little bit more by going through the petition. And we would like this awareness, as we said earlier, to reach every single voter. An informed voter making the right decision is the best that can be done today. Other than this, I think public pressure and civil service organizations have been doing a great job. The courts are trying to come in. A lot more needs to be done to ensure they're completely wiped out. I think that's a lot of work needs to be done there.
So after watching the comments that you have passed and the initiative that you have taken, our viewers would like to know, what is the purpose of your petition?
Freddie, let me just begin by sharing the petition link. It's change.org/cleanupgoapolls. So the purpose is, as I said earlier, is firstly to request Election Commission to add criminal record, this label, to all the marketing material, the campaign material. Our hope is that every citizen knows about the criminal background of every candidate, and therefore when you and I as a voter know the background, we will ensure that we make the best choice in the interest of our nation, of our state. That's our hope. I think the Election Commission in any case is acting on Supreme Court directions to propagate and ensure awareness of the same in certain manners. We are simply adding to it. That's the intention, and I'm very happy to state that Association for Democratic Reforms, ADR, has also joined us in supporting this petition in a big way.
Finally, what is your appeal to the voters?
To the voters, I think it's very clear. We've been talking about this in various forums and also in this interview. You and I, it's our nation, our state. What we elect is what we get. Let's make the right choice for ourselves, for our children, for our state, for our country. And I think the least that we can do is ensure that you are aware of the background of the candidates. Please share this with everyone around us. And when you cast the vote, just remember one thing: no candidate knows which button you're pressing. So no matter what they say, it cannot be tracked. Nobody knows your choice. It is only you in that booth who knows. So please realize this freedom of picking the right candidate that you have. Nobody can take that away. So no matter what happens outside, at the booth, it's your choice.
So in this election, there has been a lot of talk about criminalisation of politics and corruption and candidates being refielded by political parties. If you look at, you have observed the discussion that has taken place in this interview, you will find that the voter has a very clear choice. The voter has to vote for people with a clean track record, people who are meritorious, people who are clean, and should not vote for people who have a criminal record and people who have corruption cases against them. I thank my guest, Mr. Gaurav Bakshi, for being on this show and for sharing his thoughts and initiative and enlightening our voters to make a good choice.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.